Good morning. I think we can begin. We're reading in Book 1, Canto 3, the Yoga of the Soul's Release. We're on page 28, about the middle of the page, I think on line 230. We're now being introduced to King Aswapati, Savitri's father, whose aspiration has brought down the Divine Mother incarnated in his daughter. And in this canto, we see Aswapati's realization. We're given kind of an overview of it. We're not introduced very much to any sadhana that he practices, but almost from the beginning, he is attaining these high realizations of the divine. And we see that he is an avatar or a being who has descended here upon earth, and one who represents the aspiration of humanity, of the world, for the higher consciousness, for the divine. We saw in the beginning of the canto that his was a spirit that stooped from larger spheres into our province of ephemeral sight, a colonist from immortality, a pointing beam on earth's uncertain roads. His birth held up a symbol and a sign, his human self, like a translucent cloak, covered the all-wise, who leads the unseeing world. And we see, we're getting a good look at his spiritual realization, which includes not only kind of a realization of the passive divine, the divine that stands behind and supports the world and the whole manifestation, but also within him is a descending of the divine force that is taking up his mind and life and body and using them as its instruments. So this is more the dynamic realization of the divine. It says, kind of towards the top of page 28 on which we're reading, he lived in the mystic space where thought is born and will is nursed by an ethereal power, and fed on the white milk of the eternal strengths, till it grows into the likeness of a god. In the witnesses' occult rooms with mind-built walls, on hidden interiors, lurking passages, open the windows of the inner sight. He owned the house of undivided time. From that high realm, in the witness consciousness overlooking all, he could look upon the whole course of time, past, present, and future, and see it in a single glance. And now, as we continue on line 230 on page 28, we're getting a glimpse of his realization of the inner realms of the consciousness, the subliminal consciousness that Sri Aurobindo describes it as, below the threshold of our normal waking consciousness. But there are the subtle worlds of the mind and the vital plane and the subtle physical planes. So he is exploring that. He is open to all of those worlds, and now we'll be getting a glimpse of those. So perhaps, Turiya, would you like to begin on 230?
The inner planes uncovered their crystal doors. Many showers and influences touched his life. A vision came of higher realms than ours. The consciousness of brighter fields and skies, of beings less circumscribed than brief-lived men, and subtler bodies than these passing frames. Objects too fine for our material grasp, acts vibrant with a superhuman light, and movements pushed by a superconscious force, and joys that never flowed through mortal limbs, and lovelier scenes than earth's and happier lives. The consciousness of beauty and of bliss, the knowledge which became what it perceived, replaced the separated sense and heart, and drew all nature into its embrace.
So he's looking into the inner planes of existence, the inner consciousness, and is experiencing their powers and influences on his life. It is a consciousness of brighter fields and skies than our earth, of beings less circumscribed than brief-lived men. And these are worlds populated by beings in subtle bodies, not the physical bodies that we have, but bodies objects, acts, vibrant with a superhuman light, and movements pushed by a superconscient force. Those subtle worlds are more open to the higher influences, the higher superconscient force, the superconscient light. They're more open to those than we are here in the physical, because by the physical we're very much clamped down, restricted in our consciousness and in our movements. And there we see joys that never flowed through mortal limbs, and lovelier scenes than earth, and happier lives. Consciousness of beauty and of bliss. A knowledge what became what it perceived. So there, knowledge is not kind of something outside like it is in our world, where we perceive things as being outside and separate from us. There's a oneness with all the things that are perceived. Feeling of oneness. And even the emotions, the heart, the senses feel this closer unity. Tineke, would you like to continue?
The mind leaned out to meet the hidden worlds. Air glowed and teemed with marvelous shapes and hues. In the nostrils quivered celestial fragrances. On the tongue lingered the honey of paradise. A channel of universal harmony. Hearing was a stream of magic audience. A bed for occult sounds earth cannot hear. Out of the covered tract of slumber's self, the voice came of a truth submerged, unknown, that flows beneath the cosmic surfaces. Only mid-omniscient silence heard, held by intuitive heart and secret sense. It caught the burden of secrecies, sealed and done. It voiced the unfulfilled demand of earth and the song of promise of unrealized heavens and all that hides in an omnipotent sea.
Thank you. We see that all the senses that we have, sight, hearing, taste, and smell, all of these are also there, but even more sensitive, more refined.
When he is standing, the mind in this is Aswapati's mind or in general?
Well, this is his experience, so we could say it's his mind, but this is certainly an experience that's open to all of us, that anyone can experience these inner realms. They're also within us, these worlds. We're coming into a kind of a passage in which, in his kind of silent witness consciousness, observing these inner worlds, he's coming in touch also with kind of stirrings or movements, feelings that are there in the world, that are kind of universal feelings of also of aspiration or of something, a feeling of that something is missing and a searching for something greater, something more. He says, a voice came of a truth submerged, unknown, that flows beneath the cosmic surfaces. Only mid an omniscient silence heard, and held by intuitive heart and secret sense. It caught the burden of secrecies, sealed and dumb, It voiced the unfulfilled demand of earth and the song of promise of unrealized heavens, and all that hides in an omnipotent sleep. So all these higher things are kind of held down, hidden, unable to fully get expressed in our world, in the cosmos. And it's longing, it feels that kind of restriction, and it's kind of longing for those higher experiences of the higher consciousness.
Yeah, he said he got the burden of secrecy sealed and down. After he getting the burden of secrecy, which are sealed and down within us.
Yeah, well, dumb here is referring to unable to express, unable to articulate these kind of feelings, or we could say like potentials or possibilities within us that we can't, bring out fully into the outer life. So that's also kind of a burden. These are kind of, it's a weight on the consciousness that it's unable to let these things become fully expressed.
What is the unfulfilled demand of art and the songs of province of unrealized heaven?
Yeah, that's just what I was referring to, and that's just what Ramesh was also referring to. So these are the hidden possibilities within earth that are not yet able to be expressed. He's sensing these below the threshold of the surface world, the surface consciousness. These things want to come out. But as yet, they're not able to. They're the song of promise of unrealized heavens. These are possibilities, the higher possibilities of heaven that eventually will come out, but as yet, they're unable to get expressed. They're suppressed in a way.
Could it be also like Ashwapati father asked the mother to come and help the earth? It is the cry of the earth. And I wonder if this refers a little bit to that also.
Yeah, this is very much what he's experiencing. It's giving him, this is an overview of his experience, but yes, this is very much it. He's feeling this cry of the earth and these suppressed possibilities of earth. And so that is why he calls the Divine Mother down eventually.
So perhaps there is something like that.
I'm touched by these two lines. Here, 250, hearing was a stream of magic audience, and that for occult sounds earth cannot hear. Is that like the demand or the guidance Sri Auroville got? Is this something like this? You got to move from Kolkata then finally down to Pondicherry? Things and this inner guidance?
Yeah, Margaret's referring to Sri Aurobindo hearing a voice telling him to come to Pondicherry, go to Pondicherry. And yes, so that is sounds that are from this inner consciousness that he was hearing. But in general, we see that our physical senses that we have of hearing and taste and smell, all of these senses have counterparts in the subtle world. So in this subtle world, and there's even a kind of a subtle physical matter there. There's forms, there are bodies, there are people, but all of that is on it's not that dense physical that we have here. These are worlds that were created before the physical world was created, in a descent from the higher consciousness. So before it reached in its descent the physical, these worlds were created. And our world has kind of come out of these, as a result of these.
These separate physically descending from above, and this our gross physical is coming up by evolutionary process.
So yeah, then as it descended, it went into physical matter, and then from the basis of physical matter, the evolution, a gradual release of these higher possibilities started to emerge. And that's why there is this kind of feeling of something within that is not yet expressed. This kind of longing for something greater, because it's all there, but as in kind of a seed form.
Also, the mother comments here that in the first creation it was there, and then when the four beings separated from the origin, the oneness, they came the opposite. And this was when they went in the vital level. So it seems before the vital levels, there was this, how we say, the creation of a higher one there. And then in the vital level it changed, because they separated from the origin. And then of course after the vital, the physical.
So these higher realms of this subtle worlds are kind of more full of light, the divine presence, and as they descended more and more to the physical level, then they kind of went out on their own, in a sense, and separated from that higher consciousness, from the oneness, became egoistic, as we say. And then there was the full descent into the darkness and into falsehood.
At the omnipotency 260, the omnipotency, all that lies in an omnipotency. It seems to be in the synthesis of yoga, he speaks about 4 stages of the sleep. I've got the name.
Yeah, the way I look at it is that the inconscient, when this higher consciousness descended all the way down into physical matter, so it's like a sleep, in a sense. The consciousness has been totally absorbed into physical force, but it's full of power. It has all those possibilities within it. That's why it's omnipotent.
Can say inconscient is the omnipotent is we are inconscient.
Yeah.
So we are at the condition of sleep, but that is omnipotent.
Perhaps we could continue. Would you like to read?
Can I just ask one thing? After we read, can we have a moment of silence? Because this is poetry, which might give us another understanding than jumping immediately into rational mind questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
In the unceasing drama carried by time, on its long listening flood that bears the world's insoluble doubt on a pilgrimage without goal, a laughter of sleepless pleasure foamed and spumed, and murmurings of desire that cannot die. A cry came of the world's delight to be, the grandeur and greatness of its will to live, the call of the soul's adventure into space, a traveler through the magic centuries, in being's labor in matter's universe. Its search for the mystic meaning of its birth, and joy of high spiritual response, its throb of satisfaction and content, in all the sweetness of the gifts of life, its large breath and pulse and thrill of hope and fear, its taste of pangs and tears and ecstasy, its rapture's poignant beat of sudden bliss, the sob of its passion and unending pain. The murmur and whisper of the unheard sounds, which crowd around our hearts but find no window, to enter swell into a canticle, of all that suffers to be still unknown, and all that labors vainly to be born, and all the sweetness none will ever taste, and all the beauty that will never be.
Thank you. Let's pause. I find this one of the most poignant passages in the whole poem. This sense of this underlying feeling of missing something, of aspiration for something higher within the earth consciousness.
It's a very long sentence.
And we get a sense of, in the beginning, in the unceasing drama carried by time, on its long listening flood that bears the world's insoluble doubt, on a pilgrimage without goal. That's how existence, seems. It's just this long drama, pain and difficulty and suffering and joy and happiness, and just goes on, but we don't know where it's going or why.
Yeah, but also he speaks about time like a flood. But it is a flood which listens. It is listening, and it bears the words. It's images which are sourced.
Reality, all of us mental realities, we are listening to floods of waves in the mind. That is continuously inside. Listening is, for me, that something is put into a memory record, which triggers the evolution. That's how I listen.
And for me, it's a question. This is words on a pilgrimage without goal, because as you just said, in a sense, your question had been also, or is with us also, that there is something else, there is something higher. I think there's also a line in something forgotten, our vast immensity and all this. It's not all what is here, and they have forgotten that they come here from higher realm down. And often the babies, they have the connection. There is something when they come down and can remember it until it's get covered with the mind. So I think this on a pilgrimage without goal, we have, I think, what's the time to express, like Mother and Shri Auroville, there is something, there is a connection always, there is a oneness. And like Savitri says in the last line, awakening to the meaning of my heart, to feel love and oneness is to live. So this, that maybe just in earlier times it was forgotten and totally down. And often, many people are on this pilgrimage, yes, but something is behind them, and that is when it's get touched, then we know that there's something.
It means to me that when you are in this drama, part of the drama, then this is insoluble doubt about pilgrimage. You are above the drama of time, then you see there higher things to do. When you are in the drama of life, then you have peace, joy, and pain, and this and that, the dualities. That's what I'm saying. In that drama of time, you are experiencing all these things, including the doubt of our pilgrimage, that we go or not go.
Yeah, I'm asking what is telling me, or what is telling us, not to forget to go.
Yeah, not to be known in this drama.
To honor this drama, how we want to and get lost in it. That I think then stepping back and try to get into witness.
What's the purpose then you know?
So I get a sense also that he's describing kind of at the life plane, in a sense, that all of this, a lot of the drama of life, and it goes on kind of unthinking. There's all this activity, there's all this feeling and emotion, this maybe searching, there are these desires to continue. All of this kind of keeps moving all the time forward, but kind of blindly, without goal, just chasing after this desire or that want, but in the end, nothing really fulfills. So all of this he's sensing all of these feelings below the surface of life. Of all that suffers to be still unknown, and all that labors vainly to be born. We suffer at not being able to become what we would like to become, to express what we would like to express. We try, but we're unable to fulfill these possibilities. Would you like to continue in the back?
Inaudible to our deaf mortal ears, the wide world rhythms wove their stupendous chant, to which life strives to fit our rhyme beats here, melting our limits in the illimitable, tuning the finite to the infinity. A low muttering rose from the subconscient caves, the stammer of the primal ignorance, answer to the inarticulate questioning. There stooped with lightning neck and thunder's wings, a radiant hive to the inexpressible, and the anthem of the superconscient light. All was revealed, then none can here express. Vision and dreams were fables spoken by truth, or symbols more veridical than fact. All were truths enforced by supernatural seals. Immortal eyes approached and looked in his, and beings of many kingdoms near and spoke. The ever-living whom we name is as dead, could leave their glory beyond death and birth, to utter the wisdom which exceeds all praise, the kings of evil and the kings of good. Appellants at the reason's judgment seat proclaim the gospel of their opposites, and all believe themselves spokesmen of God. The God of light and the titans of the dark battle for his soul as for a costly prize.
Thank you.
Several themes in it. Can you reflect more on the first things? The white bird will move as the Venice chant, to which life strives to fit our rhyme and speed, nailing our limits in the illimitable, tuning the finite with infinite.
Yeah, he's hearing some music or from above, some beautiful sound and rhythm in the higher consciousness, and life tries to imitate or to align itself with that. Life strives to fit our rhyme beats here, melting our limits in the illimitable. So life senses these higher beauty, these higher rhythms, and it strives in a way, it longs to align itself with that, and to maybe lose its limits in those higher vibrations. And then it's this interesting few lines where a low muttering rose from the subconscient caves, the stammer of the primal ignorance. So even something from below is somehow kind of reaching up for something more, for something higher. But it can only stammer, it can't really articulate its feeling.
What is rose?
Rose is to rise, to go higher.
And then line 294, they are swooped with lightning neck and thunderous wings. It's like a bird, the neck of a bird, the lightning bird's neck.
But what is stooping is a radiant hymn, as if kind of this magnificent bird from above, but this kind of hymn from the higher consciousness is replying to that stammer of the subconscient for something more. It responds. And then it brings this anthem of the superconscient light. And in that, what is coming from above and descending down into the life and into the subconscious, what's coming down is, a complete, full consciousness. All was revealed there. None can here express. Vision and dream were fables spoken by truth, or symbols more veridical than fact, more true than fact. Or were truths enforced by supernatural seals. Immortal eyes approached and looked in his. And beings of many kingdoms neared and spoke. The ever-living, whom we name as dead.
What does it mean? Our souls? Our souls?
Yeah, the departed souls basically. Means that the other beings, other souls also restored into his ears. They were already departed.
Yeah, it's not clear whether, who these souls might be, whether they are, great souls that have been on earth, the Buddha or great yogis or who they might be, but their forms are coming and looking into his eyes. They might just be ordinary people, but they might also be these kind of great souls. They could leave their glory beyond death and birth to utter the wisdom which exceeds all phrase. So they could speak to him with great words of wisdom. The kings of evil and the kings of good, appellants at the reason's judgment seat, proclaim the gospel of their opposites.
This I find interesting. Even at that level, such a world, he's using reason to differentiate between the titans and the kings of evil and the kings of good. Even at that level of experience, he has to differentiate by reason. What is the real good influence and what is the evil influence? That's interesting.
The question is this goes together with the line 245? The mind leaned out to meet the hidden words. This mind, this is page 28.
Yeah, earlier he said that his mind leaned out to these worlds and was kind of observing, experiencing these worlds. But we see there that in these worlds, good beings and evil beings are all there. Not only the good beings. Powerful beings. And they're battling for his soul.
In the record of yoga, Sri Aurobindo started the record in 1910 when he was in Pondy. So he had already had two very high realizations before. He was already at a very high level when he started it. And yet he explains that whenever he was going to pass to a higher level, there were elements, even devata there, which were opposing. They did not want, even at that level, did not want him to go higher, right? So he had to overcome this in order to go a little bit higher. And it was like this almost at each level. And I could not believe that even at that level there were forces, and even the Batas, which tried to prevent his evolution.
Shall we continue? Ma'am, would you? No.
And every hour used from the quiver of time, there rose the song of new discovery, a bow trem's hum of young experience. Each day was a spiritual romance, as if he was born into a bright new world. Adventure meets an unexpected friend, and danger brought a keen sweet tang of joy. Each happening was a deep experience. There were high encounters, epic colloquies, and councils came couched in celestial speech, and honeyed feelings breathed from the cold lips, and helped the heart to yield to rapture's call, and sweet temptations stole from beauty's wheels, and sudden ecstasies from a world of bliss. It was a region of wonder and delight. All now his bright, clear audience could receive, a contact thrilled of mighty unknown things. Awakened to new unearthly closenesses, the touch replied to subtle infinities, and with a silver cry of opening gaze, sights, lightnings leaped into the invisible.
Thank you. We can imagine a yogi sitting quietly, meditating, and from the outside it looks, nothing is happening. What a boring life. But inside, the experiences that he might be having might be amazing. Each day was a spiritual romance. Each happening, a deep experience. And again, in this subtle realm, there's such a varied possibility. Higher things and lower things. High encounters, epic colloquies, big meetings with the gods, and then honeyed pleadings breathed from occult lips to help the heart to yield to rapture's call. So we can almost sense temptations also coming to him.
These are the subtle vital words.
Yeah, see, it's all the worlds. Subtle, vital, mental, higher spiritual realms.
What is a twang? The bow twangs hum from young experiment.
The noise.
Yes?
The noise.
The twang is a noise?
Yes.
Yeah.
When the arrow-
Of a bow and arrow, when you let the arrow go, it makes a little hum. That's the twang.
But there's also tang, actually.
Yes.
I don't know what that means. Tang.
Where? I'm sorry.
The keen, sweet and of joy.
380.
Yeah, it's a kind of a sharp taste.
Yeah. Tang.
When we read this, there are two things comes to me. One thing is I understand more deeply that we all have to learn discernment
Mm.
in whatever level we are, you know, and how important it is for, as Goya also said, even on the higher level, this discernment to develop. Yeah. This and others higher, I think, also. And the other thing is also, each day was a spiritual romance when I, from this talk from Rupa about mother's experience in Algeria, how she said that with Theons, she got all the occult and spiritual experience. It was every moment a wonder and a new discovery also. The way that is here also, I think, the record of Sri Aurobindo's occult spiritual experience.
Yeah, we'll see in Aswapati's journey through these inner worlds. We're just getting kind of a prelude to it, but we see all the varied experiences that he will go through in all these different worlds. Here we're just they're all kind of mixed together in some ways, having an introduction to this inner realm, but he's going to explore these in full detail as he continues.
And line 317. Adventure lived an unexpected friend. So lived means presented, offered?
Came suddenly.
Which line?
Even said,
Came suddenly.
Came suddenly.
Yeah, it leaped to him. All of a sudden he had a new experience, a new adventure.
Then we will also reflect a little bit more of discernment.
Speak about the discernment. Well, clearly in the physical life, in our world, we need discernment about what acts we should perform, what kind of influences we should accept into our life or not accept. But in these subtle realms, it becomes even more important, because there, these experiences, these beings that may come, are more potent in both the positive or the negative way. And there the experiences may sort of more blend together. So one needs to be more discerning, more careful in distinguishing between the positive and negative influences or beings that may come, the forces, the vibrations that may come, that one feels. One has to continue to reject the negative influences, just like we have to do here in the world, otherwise we get taken up by them. But there everything kind of flows more fluidly than it is. It's not, everything isn't so distinguished, set apart in time and space as in the physical world.
This part of us has to go to the soul, or to leave the soul. We have to go through these all words. It is possible to reach to the soul. There are not those things that we have the power to reach the soul.
What is the subject of lead? The friend?
Adventure leaped.
Adventure lead.
And he's a friend. He's also a friend. Ever his consciousness and vision grew. It took an ampler sweep, a loftier flight. He passed the border marked for matter's root, and passed the zone where thoughts replaces life. Out of this world of science, suddenly he came into a silent self where the world was not, and looked beyond into a nameless past. These simple figures lost their right to live. All tokens dropped our sense can recognize. There the heart beat no more at body's touch. There the eyes gaze no more on beauty's shape. In rare and lucent intervals of hush, in a signless region he could soar, packed with deep contents of formlessness, where the world was into a single being wrapped, and all was known by the light of identity, and the spirit was its own self-evidence.
Thank you.
What is the silver cry of opening gates?
The voice again.
The gate.
Silver.
It's a metallic sound, but this silver cry, it also is kind of suggestive of gates opening, spiritual gates, gates into the spirit.
I'm sure because the gate is made of silver.
And that's what he's describing here. He's kind of going beyond the realm of life and mind, and he's opening up into the spiritual realms, where there's a oneness of consciousness.
Soul area, like in the golden child. Golden area, we are reaching once we are in the soul region. But before the soul region, we are in the other region, which is the silver region. It's a silver cry.
This is light and beauty.
Yeah.
Something light. Means
So here in this spiritual realm, the forms, there are no more forms, no more demarcations of the mind. He's going beyond these things into a oneness, where just everything is one, everything is known. There the heart beat no more at body's touch. There the eyes gazed no more on beauty's shape. No more forms. It's the world of the spiritual self. Kind of a transcendent of forms at least. There's just conscious awareness, maybe delight, you know.
Identity is there, but light. Identity was there, but I light.
For me, like this sentence is also important. And pass the zone where thought replaces life. He's still into the mind space. The thoughts are there and forms are not important. Beauties are not important. He's touching the spiritual, right? Because even
But he passed that zone.
the last line is, of course, little like he's touching the spiritual side, the last line. But otherwise, in my opinion, it's more.
But look at the line that follows that one. Out of this world of signs, suddenly he came. He's passing the zone of thought. He's passing the zone of thought that replaces life, and he's going beyond that.
Formlessness is and he comes into silent self.
World was into a single being wrapped. And all was known by the light of identity. Wrapped here is not the wrapping that is spelled with a W. It's a rapture.
Oh, it is single being. They think you have a single being.
Whose weakness in that?
Aswapati is entering into this. So he's exploring, or he's experiencing these inner realms of consciousness. And first he's experiencing kind of the life level, the vital level, and the mind level. But now he's going beyond the mind into higher realms.
No, this a world is into a single being that. That means Ashwati is still some relatives there. He watching that things. Or he will learn. One with this.
The world of differentiation, the world of forms, he's kind of gone beyond that. He's not seeing that at this point. It's just there's a oneness. Everything is together into one experience, and everything is known, everything is kind of felt, everything is still there, but it's not in form.
So like the great one is holding or the picture is another holding all.
All was known by the light of identity, and spirit was its own self-evidence. So he's just one with that experience. That's how he kind of knows it, feels it. He's just one with it.
And it encompasses the rapture of the whole world.
It encompasses everything.
Still some weakness, consciousness is there. Feel that oneness.
What is the equivalent word of rat here? Rat, what is the meaning of rat here?
Rapture, kind of intense emotion, feeling.
So the sentence means where world was raptured into a single being?
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole world, the rapture of the whole world. It's quite something, isn't it?
This rapture also embrace, no?
The rapture is this floating.
No, it is RAFT. But he's also talking of formlessness. He is sensing the world through identity.
Yes.
Formlessness also.
Sudanya, would you like to continue? The Supreme's gaze.
The Supreme's gaze looked out through human eyes and saw all things and nature as itself, and knew all thoughts and words as its own word. Their unity is true truth for sounds and facts, and love is a dawning of the one of one. And beauty is a sweet difference of the same, and oneness is the soul of multitude. They all got unite in a single truth, and all ideas rejoin reality. They are knowing herself by her own boundless self, wisdom, supernal, wondrous, absolute, sub-uncompanion in the eternal God, all sing, motionless, sovereign, and alone. The knowledge need not words to embody idea. Ideas simply a house in their boundlessness, weary of its homeless immortality, asks not in thoughts called William himself to rest. With similar windows, click with outlook on things, sees only a little arc of God's vast sky. The boundless with the boundless their counsel, while there one can be wider than the world, while there one is one's own infinity. His center was no in earthly mind. The power of sweet silence filled his being, caught by voiceless white epiphany, into a vision that surpasses forms, into a living that surpasses life. He dared the still consciousness sustaining all.
Thank you. Let's pause.
Knowing herself by her own termless self. What is termless self?
Termless means unlimited. By her infinite self, you could say. Yeah. Term is kind of a limit.
Politicians have terms, they have 4-year terms or something. This self doesn't have terms.
So I think it's a...
The first line that touched me, the word supreme, because also when I joined Auroville, I was very happy to read from the mother that she's speak about, she don't understand why human beings don't call to the supreme, they call to this form, this form, this form, this form. And I did it before for a long time. The supreme, to call to the supreme, and then this vastness is more coming, seeing. And then there is also, and love is a yearning of the one for the one, and beauty is the sweet difference of the same. There's also a beautiful mantra, Sanskrit mantra, Om Manamaram, is telling the mantra, oneness come out of oneness, out of this comes oneness, out of this comes oneness. That is the Indian tradition knows.
This is the line that says we are able to this.
Excuse me?
This is the line that beauty is a sweet difference of the same. This is something wrong. We have to supplemental multiplicity is there, oneness also here.
Yeah, I don't know about supramental, but it's I think a realization of spirit, of the self, of Atman. It's this experience of absolute oneness. So yeah, here there is a kind of a differentiation that's there at the same time. So that oneness can coexist with differentiation, but that sense of oneness underlies all of that differentiation. It doesn't seem as separate, as different than oneself. Everything still is experienced as part of oneself.
It is also that the oneness takes different forms, but the essence is the same. Like the mother experienced in Japan, and got the information that the cherry tree carries the same energy as she.
Maybe the solution of all conflict.
That's what Sri Aurobindo keeps telling us. We have to go to that spiritual oneness. That's the only way we'll find our human unity. But it's a fairly short and very beautiful, I think, description of the realization of the self, of the Atman consciousness, which has really been the aim of most paths of yoga and spirituality in India. It's been to have this experience of this oneness. And like you kind of brought out, that there are some different aspects to it that are here, because in one kind of experience it's beyond form. There's no sense of any forms whatsoever. They just kind of drop off. But then there is this other experience that he's describing in these lines where there are forms, but they're still experienced as part of oneself, as part of the one. And there's also this kind of experience where it's as if it's all the Supreme looking out at the Supreme looking out through your eyes. So these are kind of different aspects, but it's all emphasizing an experience of oneness behind all, supporting all.
Yeah, but I don't understand this idea. 363. Their knowledge needs no words to embody idea. Idea seeking a house in boundlessness, weary of its homeless mortality.
Yeah, the separation of ideas, that limited idea is always a kind of a limited perception or understanding. All of those limits are falling off, and there's just a kind of identification with everything. It knows through identification, not through an idea of something.
And it creates form, which goes beyond. Idea is like an opinion, not more.
It's like
Opinion.
our opinions.
An opinion.
But here the idea is very
Very is tired, but what I can get from this context, like the ideas normally we think it's the thought, but here it's left the idea of thought and mind. It's not a cell also, you see, not the idea of the brain cell. It's just an idea which you grasp. Doesn't need any thought, doesn't need anything else. It's just idea and it's true. This paragraph was also puzzling to me, but I could get this. Means boundlessness, no boundlessness. There's boundlessness.
supreme situation, we got the honor being homeless, infinite, immortal.
really have a view of the whole.
Homeless immortality. This is very interesting.
What is also interesting is to get more clear with the term truth, that is 353. Where all the truths unite in a single truth, and all ideas rejoin reality. So that there are no different truths beyond or behind.
The oneness behind all the ideas, all the truths is being experienced. All of those things are differentiations of that oneness. But he's experiencing that oneness behind. And it's sitting uncompanioned in the eternal calm. It's not grasping for thoughts or wanting to try to embody it in a particular form, particular idea. It just is there in silence and calm, experiencing all at once. I think we could stop there for today.